The champagne glass trembled in my hand, not because of the weight but because of the words I had just heard. "Cover those up," my sister hissed under her breath, her perfect red lips curling into a sneer. "You're ruining the photos with those hideous scars." Her voice carried, deliberately loud enough for the guests gathered around the grand chandelier-lit hall to hear. The laughter of my cousins erupted, slicing into me sharper than any blade ever could. The music swelled behind me, violins and piano blending in a melody that was supposed to make the evening elegant. Instead, it felt like mockery. I glanced down at my arm, the faded unit tattoo inked into my skin, the jagged scars that trailed from shoulder to wrist. Symbols of a past no one in this room cared to understand. My family. My blood. My shame. The camera flashes clicked, catching my discomfort as though it was entertainment. My mother sipped her wine, eyes avoiding me, pretending I wasn't there. My father spoke loudly with the mayor across the room, deliberately turning his back. I was a ghost to them, a blemish on their carefully crafted image of wealth and prestige. And then, as I shifted to leave, a man's gravelly voice cut through the music, stopping the entire room. "Where did you get that tattoo, soldier?" The retired general's eyes, steel gray, heavy with wars of his own, locked onto mine. His words froze everyone. Suddenly, silence consumed the hall. The sneers, the laughter, the whispers, all dissolved. Every gaze followed his, resting on the scars I had spent years trying to either hide or own. And in that moment, I knew. The past I had tried to bury would become my greatest weapon. I wasn't always the family disgrace. Once upon a time, I was the pride of the household, or so I thought. My name is Elena Marlowe, the eldest daughter of the Marlowe family, one of the wealthiest and most influential names in the city. My father owned half the steel factories that supplied construction across the country. My mother was a socialite who lived for galas, charities, and headlines. And my sister, Clarissa, the golden child, was groomed from birth to be the perfect Marlowe, beautiful, cunning, and adored. Me? I was different. I never cared for diamonds, gowns, or staged photographs. I loved discipline, purpose, the rush of adrenaline when I pushed past my limits. While Clarissa practiced piano under crystal chandeliers, I was sneaking into the garage, strapping on boxing gloves, teaching myself how to fight shadows on concrete floors. So when I turned 18, I committed the ultimate sin in my family's eyes. I joined the military. My father nearly disowned me. My mother wept for weeks, claiming I had humiliated her in front of her friends. Women in uniform, she had spat once, are for the desperate, the unrefined. No daughter of mine will drag this family name through the mud. But I didn't care. For once, I wasn't chasing their approval. I was chasing my own destiny. I was deployed overseas with a special unit known as Vanguard Division, an elite team that took on missions too dangerous for conventional forces. It was there that the tattoo was inked onto my arm, a mark of brotherhood, survival, and blood spilled together. We weren't just soldiers. We were shadows. We were the line between chaos and order. Until the mission that changed everything. It was supposed to be a simple extraction. We were deep in hostile territory, rescuing a group of civilians trapped in a collapsing city. But intelligence was wrong. The enemy had been waiting. The ambush was brutal. Bullets tore through concrete. Explosions swallowed streets. The air stank of fire, blood, and betrayal. I remember dragging a boy no older than 12 through the rubble when the blast hit. Shrapnel ripped through my arm, tearing flesh apart, leaving scars that would never fade. We lost half our unit that night. And when I returned home, expecting at least some semblance of pride or recognition, my family looked at me as if I were something foul they had stepped on. My scars disgusted them. My silence after the trauma irritated them. My refusal to play their perfect daughter role enraged them. Soon, I was cut out. No invitations to galas. No seat at the table. No acknowledgement of my sacrifice. To them, I was the ugly reminder of imperfection. The black mark on their polished reputation. And yet, I endured. Until that night at the party, the night that shifted the balance forever. The retired general stepped closer, his gaze never wavering from my arm. "Vanguard Division," he said firmly, loud enough for the entire hall to hear. "That's not a tattoo you fake. Not a mark you earn without paying in blood." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Suddenly, the same relatives who had laughed were leaning in, curious. Clarissa scoffed, trying to dismiss it. "General, you must be mistaken. My sister has silly delusions. She probably had that inked at some backstreet shop just to seem important." But the general ignored her, his weathered face hard as stone. "What was your unit call sign, soldier?" My breath caught. It had been years since anyone had asked me that. My family never wanted to know. "Echo 7, I said, voice steady. The general's eyes softened with recognition. "You were in Carradine City." A collective gasp echoed across the hall. My father's glass slipped from his hand, shattering against marble floors. My mother's lips parted in horror. Clarissa blinked, confused. "Carradine? What's that?" The general's voice was sharp. "The operation that saved hundreds of civilians at the cost of some of our finest soldiers. An ambush that left half the unit dead. This woman," he pointed directly at me, "is not a disgrace. She is a hero." The room fell silent. For years, I had begged silently for validation. For years, I had wanted them to see me. And now, in front of their friends, their business partners, their precious society circle, truth had shattered their illusion. But this wasn't enough for me. Because the truth was, my family's cruelty had carved something deeper into me than any enemy ever could. Their betrayal had broken me in ways the battlefield never managed. And I wasn't just going to stand there, basking in hollow recognition. No. I was going to make them pay. That night became the first step of my revenge. The general approached me privately after the hall dispersed into uneasy whispers. He told me of powerful connections, veterans who owed him favors, doors that could open for me if I wanted them. But more importantly, he told me something I hadn't known. The ambush at Carradine? The bad intel that led to so many deaths? It hadn't been random. It had been orchestrated, by someone leaking information for profit. And the trail, after years of silence, pointed shockingly close to home. My father's steel company. The contracts. The suppliers. The whispers of under-the-table deals with war profiteers. It all made sense. My family hadn't just abandoned me because of shame. They had abandoned me because my very existence threatened to expose them. They wanted me silent. They wanted me gone. But now, I had the proof. I had allies. And I had the rage of every scar they mocked, every insult they hurled, every night they turned their backs. Revenge wasn't just an idea anymore. It was destiny. I played the part at first, quiet, docile, the black sheep too beaten down to resist. Let them believe I was still weak. Behind closed doors, I gathered evidence. Files. Emails. Bank records. The general's contacts guided me, step by step, unraveling the empire my father had built on blood money. Clarissa, ever so arrogant, became an easy pawn. A few subtle manipulations, a few whispered suggestions, and soon she was exposing family secrets without even realizing it. When I finally revealed the truth, I did it the same way they had destroyed me, publicly. At the Grand Marlowe Charity Gala, under the same chandelier light that had once mocked my scars, I projected the documents on the screen. Deals with arms traffickers. Payments for intel. Blood bought with steel. The gasps, the outrage, the collapse of everything they held dear, it was beautiful. My father was arrested. My mother's reputation crumbled. Clarissa, desperate to salvage her image, turned on them both, tearing the family apart from within. And me? I walked away. Not broken. Not shamed. Not hidden. Every scar on my body now burned with victory. Because I had taken back what was mine, not their love, not their acceptance. I didn't need that anymore. I had taken back my power. And as I stood outside the crumbling gates of the mansion that had once imprisoned me, I finally smiled. Never again, I whispered. The scars that once made me their shame had become my crown. And my revenge was complete. The end.